Some of the world's top collectors each have very specific goals, but they also have qualities that drive them to completing these goals and eventually owning some of the most impressive Pokemon card collections in history. And no, they aren't all rich. In fact, many are regular people like you and I. So what does it take to be the very best like no one ever was? Why are you collecting Pokemon cards? It's not a rhetorical question, I'm actually asking you. I built this flowchart that we will go through step by step as a self-audit, so we can identify which goal suits your collecting style best. This started out as a how to collect Pokemon cards on a budget video, but during my research I found that budget, big or small, isn't what's holding us back. It's the collector and the pressure put on us. Here's the first decision we have to make. What motivates your collecting? On the left, we have an honest, true love for the cards. When I was a little kid, I loved Pokemon Yellow on my Game Boy. I still have the exact Game Boy and cartridge right here. Sugimori's watercolor illustrations to this day are so inspirational to me, and I only got to open booster packs on special occasions, so it made Pokemon cards very special to me. At this point, I just want the most fun for my money, and if you feel this way too, you might take this path. But you'll be faced with more serious ethical questions, like, are you comfortable with gambling? When you open a booster pack, you are engaging in a gambling mechanic. This behavior is addictive and in rare instances dangerous if you keep spending to chase a single card, eventually outweighing the original cost of the card you're chasing. Back in the day, the odds of pulling a Charizard was about 1 in 108 packs, but some modern chase cards are estimated to be 1 in 2,000 packs. If you're comfortable and you know the risks, then you'll end up opening booster packs to get most of your cards. Following the chart, we see that this leads us to the most expensive way to collect. And this might be a good time to mention that this is just a chart that I made and I'm just a YouTuber. You might feel like you're a combination of multiple paths, and that's okay. In fact, it's realistic. The important part comes later when we talk about goals. But for now, if you're not comfortable with the gambling aspect, then you'll want to focus on trading and buying singles. Trading is the best because it's essentially free, so try to make trades when you can. But buying singles is widely accepted as the smartest way to collect from a financial standpoint. Today, there are a lot of great cards for just $1 to $2. Every time you open a booster pack and get nothing interesting, you lose the value you paid. It's even worse if you already have all those cards. Opening some packs and then switching to a single strategy is popular. It's the best of both worlds, but it requires strong willpower. Buying singles also offers flexibility. You can buy any card at a few different price points. A card graded at a 10 will be the most expensive, obviously, but you can go for a near mint raw copy, a lightly played one, or even a damaged one if you really value that discount. Okay, let's jump back to the beginning and try the other path. What motivates your collecting? On the right, we have a value-based collecting strategy. This is if you want to build the most impressive net worth out of Pokemon cards. There is something captivating about holding a binder that's worth 5 figures. So if this sounds like you, there are 3 paths to take: sealed, speculating, and flipping. Now, I won't go into too much detail, but these are different ways that you can make money by collecting Pokemon cards. Keeping sealed product that gains value over time, or buying raw cards, grading them and flipping them into the profit is super common ways to build value. I represent these as separate paths here, but in reality, you'll be doing all of these 3 things. The idea behind this type of strategy is that you can use your profits to buy the cards you want, making them, in a way, free. All of these investing paths lead to the clock symbol, which represents time. What financial worth you can assign this is up to you, not me. This could be the most expensive way to collect, or the cheapest, depending on how you feel about it. So if you're on a tight budget, you can try flipping a card to pay for a different card. But you need to consider your time as well. It might make more sense to pick up an extra shift at work, or find a second job. Okay, so maybe you notice that every path eventually leads to one path, and that's because any combination of collecting habits or strategies can eventually arrive at any goal. The flowchart was to provoke thought and reflection on how you buy your cards. I ran a poll on my channel and almost 2,000 of you voted on one of these 4 goals. One came out on top by a huge margin. Can you guess which one? If you have a fascination with a specific illustrator, a specific Pokemon, or collecting all of something, then this might be the goal for you. Over 50% chose this as their collecting goal. Some of the most fascinating sets in the world started with personal goals, like David Person, who's collecting every single card ever, or Jesse Pang, who's collecting the Gold Star cards in pristine CGC 10s. Or Mr. Amadeus, who says, right now I'm focusing on collecting first edition trainer cards. Not all of them, because I don't like them all, but the ones I like. The hand-drawn art from those early trainer cards has a special quality to me. With a goal like this, I can tell Mr. Amadeus grew up, like me, absolutely fascinated with vintage Japanese art style. A popular one I see is 1 card of every Pokemon, so completing the Pokédex. Since there are over 1,000 Pokemon, that means this goal would include collecting over 1,000 cards, but there are sorts of rules you can set for yourself. For example, maybe you only want holo cards, or maybe each card has to be the most expensive card for that specific Pokemon. A collector with this goal probably isn't opening booster packs very often, because that would just be a poor use of their budget. Or maybe your goal is to have fun with your kids and family, or just build a deck and play the TCG, which is totally respectable. Like CLR977, who says, I just want to play with my sons. We treat Pokemon like a board game and nothing more. Goal number 2 is master set collecting. The reason this isn't in personal collections is because a master set is a predetermined list of cards, and you're probably going to be collecting cards that you don't really have a passion for as a natural part of the process. You might choose one specific set to complete, or you might start with your childhood collection and fill in the spaces that you're missing. If you're crazy enough, you might start with the 1999 base set and try to master set every single set up to the most recent release. For one to achieve this, they would have to exercise a lot of discipline and use strategies like trading and buying singles. They wouldn't have time to flip cards on eBay. A friend of mine, Max City, set out to collect the entire set of 1996 Card-Ass Prisms all in a PSA 10. He didn't randomly acquire these. He specifically sought out each one, and the hard work paid off. He now has something incredible. The third goal is one that I personally find very tempting. The goal is to have one specific Grail card. This would be something like a first edition Charizard or Pikachu Illustrator, maybe a prototype card or the test print Blastoise with the Magic the Gathering back. Many of these are in the 6-figure range and therefore are out of reach for most collectors, including myself. But there are mid-tier Grail cards like the Gold Stars or some rare promo cards. Now, please forgive me, but I'm going to use Logan Paul as an example here. He set his eyes on Grail cards, Pikachu Illustrator, and first edition Charizard. I know what you're thinking, he's rich, so he can buy whatever he wants. And while that is true, the fact is he set goals and he met them. But most of us don't have millions in disposable income, so what do? By automatically saying the words, I can't afford it, your brain stops working. By asking the question, how can I afford it? Your brain is put to work. This is a quote from Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. What it means is that when you say that you can't afford something, like let's say a PSA 10 first edition Charizard, you stop thinking about it, you lose focus, and you move on to other things, probably booster packs. But when you say, how can I afford that Charizard, the gears start turning, and if you keep that thought at the forefront of your mind, it can eventually happen. If your Grail card is out of your price range, that's kind of a good thing. If you could just go and buy it, then it wouldn't be a Grail card, would it? As your collection grows and becomes more valuable, you could perhaps sell it all or trade the entire collection for that one Grail card 20 years from now. And from here, you have leverage. You could trade this Grail for a different Grail when you get bored of it or something. If this is your goal, you can't afford to lose focus. Forget about the new Pikachu or evolutions. If this is your goal, you can't afford to lose focus. This last goal is a bit of a wild card. Money. Now, collecting Pokemon cards to make money isn't frowned upon, This is frowned upon. Don't confuse the two. Some Pokemon cards are world-class collectibles, and that means that there's money in this hobby. Some people collected first edition Charizards and sealed booster packs back in 1999, and now they have the opportunity to take care of their families for generations. If you have a little one and you want to build a collection with them or for them over the next 18 years with the intention to sell it off and pay for college, then that's a perfectly reasonable goal too. Look at the price of a Team Up booster box from 2019. That's only 6 years. If you bought a dozen of these, paying college tuition isn't a joke anymore. It's realistic. It might happen. And if your goal is actually the Grail card, then this could be a step toward that too. But that takes an incredible amount of discipline, experience, and luck. Not to mention a high cost up front. Maybe you really align with one of these goals. A lot of people in the poll did, but others went down to the comment section because they felt like one goal didn't represent them accurately. Hispanic Panic says, so far I want to collect every Crown Zenith card and as many of the Gardevoir line as I can. So they mostly align with the Master Set goal for Crown Zenith, but have a personal side goal of collecting Gardevoir cards. Ninja Stroll says, basically collect whatever I can with no end goal in sight. And I'm sorry to pick on you, Ninja, but this is actually the exact problem we're trying to solve here. Building a world-class collection actually means setting a goal and holding yourself accountable. The Pokemon Company profits off of FOMO and impulse buys, so they're going to push that. No one is buying every promo, every set, and every chase card that comes out, so don't feel pressured. Feel free to share your collecting goals down below. I'd love to hear them.